It's obvious, isn't it? The perfect storm is brewing right now. Two major events are taking place this week that we have been waiting for all year. And with various different major crypto coin charts coiling up into bullish patterns right now, this could be an incredibly explosive week, one that we've been looking forward to for a long time. Do me a favor, hit the like button, and let's get into it. Now guys, before we dive in and take a look at those charts that are ready to break out, as well as the key events that you need to put into your calendar, just a quick disclaimer. Nothing I say in this video is financial advice. Everything I say is for entertainment purposes only. If you wish to invest in crypto, you should understand that it's risky and you can lose money. So don't risk money that you can't afford to lose, and always do your own research. Oh, and by the way, down below are different exchange links and services that I personally use. If you use these links, they're affiliate links and I will make a small commission, but at no expense to yourself. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's crack on with it. Now guys, if you've been paying a little bit of attention on the shorter term timeframes to Bitcoin and a number of different altcoins, then you will have noticed over the past few days, things have been looking a little bit more positive than they were just a week or so ago. But you probably haven't noticed just how good things are looking on certain chart patterns out there and what it's really showing us. But before we take a look at that, let's just consider these events that are coming up this week. Now, if you've been subscribed to the House of Crypto over the past few weeks, months, years even, then you will have been well aware that crypto is closely related to what's happening in global financial markets. Yes, in the short term, you may have seen chart manipulation happen because of exchanges and lots of other things going on behind the scenes. But really, zooming out further will give you a clear picture of how crypto is closely linked to global liquidity. But there's a few factors throughout the past year or so, or more, that have been really impacting that liquidity in the system. These are things like tariffs, high interest rates, unrest in the Middle East, and more recently, government shutdowns in the United States. And unfortunately, every time we've seen something that comes in and impacts that liquidity in the system, we've effectively seen the markets starting to struggle once more. Now, liquidity is effectively money. When there's more money sloshing around in the system, people are more willing to take various different bets. There is more interest in going into higher risk assets. When interest rates come down, you will see higher risk assets doing better, whereas lower risk assets like bonds, gold, etc. start to suffer. Other things like tariffs increase uncertainty, cause inflation to go up, which again puts more pressure on the Federal Reserve to keep interest rates higher. Government shutdowns also mean that it's very difficult for more liquidity to be entering into the US system right now. And since the US has the United States dollar, which is the global currency, it obviously has a big impact on things. But there are two things happening this week that we should all be looking forward to. The first one, which is happening on the 30th of October, is Donald Trump meeting Xi Jinping, President of China, over in Seoul, South Korea. Why is this such a big deal? Well, we've already seen over the weekend President Trump, Scott Bessent, and various Chinese officials say that it's more than likely that they're going to come to an agreement this week. This is incredibly important because China and the US, with the two biggest economies in the world, have been tussling over tariffs, which have had huge implications for various different stock prices as well as commodity prices, etc. This has put uncertainty into the market. Whenever you think uncertainty is there, liquidity goes down. If you're uncertain, you're less likely to take risks. And that's what we're going away from. Uncertainty towards a world where everyone is cooperating and working together. That's something that will inject tons of liquidity into the markets. Now, that's obviously a very bullish thing, and it comes in on the 30th. But on the 29th, the day before, is another major event, one that is likely to create the perfect storm of multiple events coming together. What's happening on the 29th? Well, coming across to myfxbook.com, you can see that the federal interest rate decision is taking place. Now, you can see it's 10 p.m. for me, but if you're in the UK, it's more than likely going to be in the afternoon, and in the US, the morning of the 29th. Now, we already know that the consensus is that the interest rates will get brought down. Now, that's obviously positive because it makes low-risk assets less attractive, like bonds, gold, etc. And I told you around a week ago that gold was likely going to start hitting the top very, very soon. It was literally on that Friday that I made that video, and since then you can see gold is down around 8%. Now, this is basically in response to risk in the markets. We've seen risk and uncertainty all this time here, but as we started to move towards a time where war in the Middle East was starting to quieten down, starting to look like we were going to get a trade deal between the US and China, starting to look like we're going to get interest rates, you can see that gold no longer becomes such a desirable asset because it is protecting people against risky times, Now we're starting to move away from the risky times. Gold is already starting to smell that. And that money from gold, you can see, is starting to rotate into the likes of Bitcoin and will also be rotating into some of the larger cap altcoins like Ethereum, etc. Gold had a $30 trillion market cap, which is around 15 times bigger than that of Bitcoin. There is a lot of money to come out of gold and flow into the risk assets. Obviously, not all of that is going to end up in crypto, but just a portion of it would send the majority of the crypto markets towards new highs. Now, obviously, we know that we're going to get a rate cut of around 0.25. There is a chance that it comes in slightly bigger than that, though, and here's why. Normally, things like the job data tell the Federal Reserve how much they need to cut rates by. A struggling job market tells them it needs to be more dovish or perhaps less aggressive in their stance on trying to reduce inflation, and thus allowing them to bring down interest rates. But because there's been a government shutdown in the US, it's meant that that job data isn't available for the Fed. The Fed has to rely on various other signals happening around the world. What's happening right now? Well, we've seen war in the Middle East starting to subside and calm down. We saw a peace deal came in. Tariffs have also been a factor that have kept interest rates very high through this year because tariffs equal higher inflation. With tariffs now starting to ease as well, with deals between the US and India and now a looming deal between the US and China on the table, there's a reasonable chance that we might see a bigger than usual rate cut. And if we don't, it's not all lost, because straight after that interest rate decision, Jerome Powell, the chair of the Federal Reserve, will give a speech, and it is a chance within that speech that he declares that they're going to stop quantitative tightening. Now, this is all incredibly dull and uninteresting if you are not interested in economics and you're not really sure how this all moves the markets. But by understanding this, it's going to give you more confidence in there still being a bull market ahead and start to ignore all those people who are simply just looking at charts and telling you that the bull market was over like 4 days ago, only to be now telling you that the bull market's back on. Now, what is quantitative tightening, quantitative easing? Now, basically, the Fed has a balance sheet. Effectively, when they're tightening, they are pumping up that balance sheet. They're basically saving money for a rainy day. As soon as they want to stop tightening and go towards easing, they start to release those funds back into the market. And as that happens, there's going to be more money into the system, and that is effectively what drives crypto bull markets. When you see that kind of meme of Jerome Powell pumping money out, that's effectively what this is. And if there's any sort of a hint that there's going to be an end of quantitative tightening or quantitative easing coming in, then we are ready to go. Things are going to get incredibly exciting from here, and then all you've got to wait for on top of that would be for the government shutdown to end. Now, I know if you've been in the crypto markets over the past few months or so, you feel like it's unfair, like it's stacked against you, like we're never going to have a bull market because the market makers keep stepping on our toes and wrecking us. Well, this might all be about to change and start to move in favor for you. Because remember, market makers are just there to try and take out over-leveraged positions, keep healthy price action, and encourage overall trading in the markets. That's all they're really there for. So right now, while the markets haven't been ready because of not enough liquidity in the system, once we start to move to a time where there is a lot more liquidity, those very same market makers will also start to pump the price. Now, having spoken to a lot of people in crypto over the past few weeks or so, I've started to realize that a lot of people, really experienced people in crypto, are currently sidelined. Now, they're basically telling me that, yeah, if the market starts to pick up, they're going to get back in, but they're kind of concerned because there's been a lot of kind of fingers burnt over the last 6 months or a year or so. And that makes sense if you kind of anticipate that the crypto markets will start to creep up from here. But if these catalysts come together this week, there is a chance that crypto starts to send far more aggressively and far quicker than people can ever imagine. My biggest fear, if I was sidelined right now, would be to go to sleep with Bitcoin at $115,000 only to wake up tomorrow morning and see Bitcoin at $128,000. And you might feel right now that that's not possible, but if you were in the last bull market, there was several times where this kind of thing happened. And that's Bitcoin. Altcoins have the ability to do 10, 20, 30, maybe even 50% moves in a single day. And I feel that the next move has to be so aggressive that it catches the entire market off guard. One like this, perhaps. One like this, perhaps. Okay, these moves happen in a very short window. And then after that, we can see kind of markets tracking sideways, etc., where we often lose out on the most opportune moments. And taking into account all of the different things that are lining up in terms of catalysts right now, it's the charts that have me most interested in what's about to happen. You see, this is the Bitcoin chart, and as you can see, it's been in this kind of megaphone pattern, whatever you want to call it, since pretty much back in July. Yes, it put in a slightly higher high earlier on this month, which does feel like a lifetime away, but really we're still just in this kind of continuation pattern. Now, as you can see, it's running into another kind of smaller pattern within this one. If you exclude these two big ones, you can see that we are here right now. I do think that, you know, when we have an announcement or something like that, that could cause a breakout from this pattern that hits all those billions of dollars worth of short positions where the bears have been stacking up their shorts, and it sends Bitcoin back towards this. Now, if you know what this megaphone pattern looks like, effectively it's a continuation pattern. Whenever Bitcoin revisits this $123,000 level, it's more than likely going to see continuation, and it will more than likely happen incredibly quickly. And because those catalysts are lining up, I don't want to be sidelined for when this happens. Ethereum is also putting in this bull flag pattern. You can see that it's basically been holding these lows. It's now back up above key support at 3,900 and it's starting to push towards the top of this pattern. If these patterns stack up against these areas when those news events are about to happen, I wouldn't be surprised to see some very volatile price moves. And there's more. This is XRP just continuing to kind of hold the lows that it's been holding since the 26th of November, pretty much in this path here. I do think maybe another blow back towards this kind of $4 level. How much higher it goes than $4, I'm not really sure. But, you know, things are starting to look good here. SUI has held the lows of this pattern that it's been stuck in since back in October, or literally a year ago to the day. See it coiling up like this in this massive continuation pattern. Now, why do I mean continuation? It entered this way. It will exit this way. When that happens exactly, I'm not sure, but I know it will be driven by some sort of media catalyst somewhere out there. Effectively, it'll be driven by the market makers, but a media coverage will be used to kind of provide the smoke screen so that you don't feel like the markets are completely manipulated by market makers, even though that's exactly what they are. And there's other charts that have also caught my attention. Now, it feels bearish, it feels scary if you're zoomed in too tight, if you've been buying at the tops every time the market started to get heated up, and if you've been looking at like short-term charts. But if you zoom out and look at like the monthly charts, you'll see that everything is looking fairly normal. The others Bitcoin chart, which is the altcoins outside the top 10 versus Bitcoin, are the most oversold altcoins have ever been against Bitcoin right now. You can see that it broke down into this key kind of buy zone area when we had that massive liquidation event just the other day. Now you can see we have a very strong bounce. A continuation towards the upside is most likely from here. This is the others chart, which is again altcoins outside the top 100. You can see on both this chart and on the RSI, we're both forming into pennant patterns, likely continuation patterns here. This breakout here is when we see altcoin season. Now, be careful. This is a monthly chart. Don't expect this to necessarily happen like tomorrow. It does hinge on that government lockdown in the US and when that eventually finishes. Although I do think it might finish in early November, probably at the latest, as they start to turn the screw and make things more and more uncomfortable for opposing parties, etc. But I know people are still very, very cautious because of the fear of the Bitcoin dominance chart. Now, if you look at just the charts here, to be honest, Bitcoin dominance does appear to have broken and retested and failed to break back above this line of resistance, which does tell me that this is a possible move. This is what happened in 2017. This is what happened in 2021. This can happen again. It doesn't have to go back up. And whilst there is a chance of it going back up, if it doesn't happen, I don't want to be sidelined. And here's why. And I need to use this because it's so important, the message to have. This is Solana looking at a monthly chart. Now, I've shown you this before, but it's so important, right? If you look at this green box down here, this is effectively where many, many altcoins sit right now. Many, many altcoins are sitting in this range, okay? They go up, they come down, they kind of go around, not doing too much useful stuff. Solana went up and then went down 72%. Went down 72% after hiking up to around $5. Now, once it completed that trip, it then went up 280x. Now, that might sound kind of confusing, but let's just say you had $10 worth of Solana at that time, and you made 280x on Solana. That would have meant $2,800. What about if you had $100? That would have turned into $28,000. $1,000, 280,000. You get the picture. And anyone who bought in this time was happy. Whether you bought at the top of that or at the bottom of that, you still would have made some really good gains. But like we see now, there would have been people down at this time who thought that Solana was a scam and they hated crypto and there was never going to be an altcoin season and crypto was difficult and it wasn't fair and it's nothing like the last bull market and everything else. And then this happened. And it wasn't just Solana. Lots of coins did this. This is Mana Decentraland. Okay, Mana Decentraland was again in and around one of those little zones like that. See, it goes up after launch and then it comes back from this point all the way down 54%. And in fact, after it launched, it came down 80%. Now, from that post-launch where it went pretty much down to almost zero, it went to 1 cent, it then went up to $5.90. So from 1 cent, it went to $5.90, which by my maths is 590 times, right? So $10 equals $5,900. Now, this is not typical in terms of results. These are like some of the best performing coins. But there are coins out there, I believe, that have seen significant pain, that are down 80, 90%, but will be the coins that everybody is talking about as soon as this bull market really gets fired up. And it will get fired up eventually. We have all of the conditions ready and set to start easing in the right direction. If it doesn't happen this week, so be it. It will happen in the next few weeks ahead. But eventually we're going to get into a time where things are looking good. So don't necessarily focus in on the performance of charts and coins that you're holding right now. Focus in on the quality of the projects. The chart performance is literally down to the strategy of the market makers and the projects right now. That's right. It's not down to how good that project is. It is literally down to whether or not the founders have decided to put more liquidity towards their market making or pay for marketing or anything it is, or anything right now. They're effectively going to then press that button to send it much higher as soon as the market gets greedy. So a lot of the coins that you're holding that could be significantly down are just in these accumulation boxes. And these are what those accumulation boxes look like. This is Aptos, just as an example, that's in its accumulation box. Eventually, Aptos more than likely goes significantly higher. Aether, again, just in its accumulation box. Pretty much every coin that you've been looking at, pretty much accumulation boxes. Okay, if you're in the accumulation box, I appreciate maybe some moves have been painful. You find yourself further down than you anticipated, but really I don't think things look too bad. Now, while we've been trending up and down throughout those accumulation boxes, it's been really frustrating if you've just been holding spot. But what I've started to do more recently is hold different trading bots that are using a grid system to basically buy the lows, sell the highs. And this is working really effectively. As you can see here, I've got a position on Solana. Yes, it's in like some profits on here because Solana's obviously been going up in the last few days, but it's actually been locking in grid profits here. So it's taking this money off the table. It's taking profits like you've been told to do all the time. Okay, World Liberty Finance, $400 in grid profits, and the position itself also in $1,000 worth of profit. Aether hasn't been performing so well, but still has taken money off the table. If we go down through some of these as well, we can see Ethereum has locked in $1,500 in terms of grid profits. And this is what they look like on the charts. Okay, so Solana here has all of these green lines here, which it just buys. Every time it goes up here, it takes a few profits, etc. If it comes down more, it will buy more. And then as time goes on, we can continue to move the grids higher. Now, I've set up all of these bots so that you can simply copy these bots yourself after doing some research, of course, and basically use my trading strategy to make these kind of gains that you can see down below. Now, I've created a group where you can go and learn more about this, and I've created a whole Zoom tutorial on how to do this. I've also got all the links for all the different altcoins out there so that you can effectively trade a much more strategically. If you've just been going up, making money, and then losing money on the way down, the easiest way to do it is to be making consistent small trades automatically. Now, this uses an AI to effectively track where the prices are moving all the time. If you want to learn more about this and start copying my bots, etc. from today, then just click the link down below for the Pionex Telegram group. In that Telegram group, I'll show you exactly how all this works. I'm also in that Telegram group, and we have various different assistants, etc., who can help you out and take you through this process so that you can start making yourself some gains. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. Things look alright to me. Hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you very soon in another video. Bye-bye.